have your information from the email. I have these beautiful photos. I would love to hear from you about, number one, who you'd like to start with, or number two, if there's anything in particular that you want me to focus on. I mean, sometimes people are curious about a certain pattern of behavior in their child, or relationship issues, or even in terms of you, career direction or things like that.
That's great. The reason I bought your book was for my daughter, and being able to get to know her as much as possible, and be the kind of parent that I need to be for her. I'm a big fan of the 5 love languages for children, and how it doesn't matter that you love your kid if they don't feel loved in the way that you're parenting them, then you've failed. So this is just another sort of layer on top of that. I feel like, a way to be the best parent I can be for her. And I'm also interested in my husband and I's dynamic. We have been together 10 years, married. And, I mean, really from the get-go, we have had difficulties. I mean, we just, it's not easy for us. We love each other deeply, like we're both very loyal and committed, but we just are constantly butting heads, and it's just very difficult.
But you're very different people, so I totally get that.
Yeah, and so I would just love a little bit more insight about why maybe we have such a hard time, even though we love each other so much and we're so committed. Like, why is it so difficult? And then I feel like I know myself pretty well, but would love any more insights that you may offer on my face too.
So, looking at Penelope, she's just such a sweetheart. So, as you read in the book, when you read a child's face, of course, their face is not fully formed at birth, and it continues to grow in with every feature growing in at a different rate, actually until they're in their mid-20s. But it doesn't really matter, because you read what's there at any stage of the process, and that's representative of who they are.
Right.
And, with my work, I also look at the patterns in their birth rate, and that's the new book, which I'm not expecting you to have gotten yet, but I am going to be looking at. Yeah.
And that's going to be about, like, how they actually entered the world and how that affects their personality, or?
Exactly.
Oh, exactly. That's going to be awesome.
Oh, honey. Yeah, so it's already out. I'll send you the link to that information on my website so you can have a look at it.
Oh,
but
cool.
For each of you, when I do a reading, it's about both the face and the birthday. You need to really see how each weave together to create the person, the whole person. Because often what the face says is different from what the birthday says.
Right.
In your daughter's face, not so much. There's a lot of consistent messages here. And one thing that I focused on right off the bat, which may seem an incredibly small little detail, but it's the dimple. Well, the dimple actually has a lot of messages here, and it actually is a match for a lot about what her birthday says about her, which I'll get to in a second. But, first of all, what a dimple means basically is someone who has a natural charm and a natural exuberance, a delight, a joy in life. And they're able to communicate that to other people. In other words, they're able to charm other people. They may be a little flirtatious. But they're very good at lighting other people up. Do you recognize that in her?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. And the interesting thing is it's only on one side. And the right side of the face is called the public side of the face. The left side is the private side. And so basically what this means is that in her life, this is going to be a huge strength for her in her work, in her relationships with other people, in any interactions she has with the outside world. That there is basically a theme of giving love, of being love. It has to do with the heart in Chinese medicine. And one of the things that this means is that anyone who has a dimple on the right side is very open-hearted with other people, and really wants to kind of touch hearts. It's about little sparks of love coming from their heart and touching the hearts of other people. But she'll have a natural ability to warm up a room the minute she walks in.
Wow.
To communicate well with other people. And that alone will serve her really well. Okay, so she has rounded eyebrows. which is a sign of kindness, especially with other people, that she'll always want to create a win-win situation with people. Now, she's so little now, you may not be seeing that, but as she grows up, you may be seeing this part of her nature, which is a very nurturing, kind nature, wanting to make people feel good.
Okay.
And this fits with this little heart personality as well, because, it's basically someone who just is full of joy and delight. Now, the picture that you sent of me where she's not smiling, and I know it must be hard to get a picture of her when she's not smiling.
Right.
But do you remember, I'm looking at her eyes, and it looks as though it may have been a bit bright that day, and so she's not squinting, but I'm just wondering, when you look at her eyes, you may not be able to look at that picture right now, but normally, are her eyes fairly held wide open, or are they not?
I would say they're pretty wide open.
Yeah. It's another picture that I'm looking at when she has a little green bow in her hair. Her eyes are more wide open, and so that does matter, especially in terms of this personality type. And also, so that lets me see how her lower lids look naturally. And I know this may sound silly that I'm looking at all these little details, but they really are indicators here. The rounded lower eyelids is a sign, again, of someone with kindness and tact, and not, people with very straight lower eyelids, they're kind of conniving. They care more about what's in it for them than for other people.
Uh-huh.
That's not her. Okay. Now, if you look at the inner corners of her eyes, they're probably going to be ending up a little pointed, and possibly hooking down a little bit. That's a sign of someone who can be a good communicator, who can be very precise with her words, so she could be a good writer or in the media or something like that. But when she's upset, if you really make her upset, there's also the potential, at least, that she'll be really precise with her words in telling you exactly what upset her. Does she have, of course, she's 3 years old right now?
She's 3.5, uh-huh.
Okay, so, this is a stage in early childhood. Kids are always very emotional. They'll have flare-ups of emotion or tantrums or things like that. So it's a little too early to tell. But some of the things both her face and her birthday are talking about is a child who has what's called overt emotions. There's covert emotions and then there's overt emotions. And someone who has overt emotions will express their emotions. They may have flare-ups of emotion. They may be excitable. And the child is a child who can get really excited about things and maybe get loud or jump up and down or bounce off the walls. And an adult is someone who can express their emotions more easily.
Okay.
When you look at your interactions with her, your relationship with her, is there anything that is a greater challenge for you or something that you struggle with?
Well, I have sort of categorized her as a difficult child. From birth, she's been a difficult baby. I was a nanny for a long time, and I've worked with parents as a doula, and taught baby care classes, and so I've been around a lot of babies and toddlers, and I just kind of felt like I got my ass handed to me with Penelope, just because she's been, she just had a lot of stuff going on. Like breastfeeding was impossible. It took me 5 months to get her to be able to figure out how to latch. So, for 5 months we were, working on that. And then even then, she still wasn't able to, process the messages, so her rooting, sucking reflex were never right and strong enough. So I had to pump for almost 2 years. And,
oh my God, you poor thing.
And she didn't sleep. Like she woke up every 45 minutes. And so, but my point is that we just got her evaluated, and the diagnosis was sensory processing disorder. So she is gifted, she is smart, she's not delayed, it's not a disability, but she has a hard time processing information and senses. So she gets overwhelmed easily. Yeah. So some senses she's hyper, and some senses she's hypo, where she is seeking out the sensory feeling.
Yeah, okay. This makes a lot of sense to me, and there's always kind of a range or spectrum that patterns can show up in.
Yeah,
and
so she's highly functioning.
Of course, yeah. But what you're saying to me actually matches the patterns that I'm seeing here. So let me talk a little bit more in depth about that to see if this makes sense for you.
Okay.
There's a very strong scene here in both her face and her birthday. It has to do with what the Chinese call fire. And if you think of fire like a flickering flame, it can show up as having problems with paying attention, with being able to focus, with being able to stay with something. It's like the breeze blows and the flame flickers. It's all over the place. Or fire is always looking for somewhere new to burn. It's not grounded. It doesn't stay with one thing or stay in one place. And there can be issues at the extreme. I mean, sometimes people have epilepsy or severe attention disorders. That's not what she has.
No.
But this, the inability to remember how to latch on, for instance, can be part of that pattern.
Right, exactly. Like she can't, if she goes to reach for a ball, even though she's picked up a ball with her hand before, she just has a hard time connecting the dots.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And the Chinese say that one thing about people who have problems with their fire is that they need to be given taught techniques to learn how to settle that fire, to calm it down, there's many ways fire can show up. It can kind of be like those burning embers in the fireplace that don't flicker, or it can be the raging forest fire. So there's a middle ground here, and your job, and you're already doing it, is to be able to help her learn to ground herself, to calm herself, to center.
Right, yeah.
Now, another thing about children like this is that they're often very empathic, that they're very open energetically and psychically to the energy around them.
Right.
And that's part of what makes them have trouble paying attention or focusing, because they're being bombarded by messages, invisible messages from the energy of other people, for instance.
Right.
They don't know what's